What separates this from this? What about this from this? And this from this? Strangely enough, it's actually dopamine. Yep, the reason why a crow can solve puzzles far more advanced than a pigeon is because that crow has far more dopamine in its brain. But does that mean dopamine's a good thing, or is it a bad thing? And what's a dopamine detox? Why would you even do it? What are the benefits of it? And what's the science behind it? Does it even work? In this video, you're going to learn every single thing that you need to learn about the dopamine detox. And if you're interested in the topic, or you're considering doing a dopamine detox, put this video in full screen, remove distractions and watch until the end, because you have to understand the tools that you're using if you want to really get the benefit out of it. Imagine you're trying to win a race, you must completely understand how to drive a car, and whether or not you understand how a dopamine detox works is going to completely change the kind of results that you get. So welcome back to the Mental Momentum Dopamine Detox free course here on YouTube. If you haven't already, go back and check out the first video in this course where we reveal whether a dopamine detox is even right for you, because it may not be, and also my personal experience with a dopamine detox. But what actually is dopamine? Well, dopamine is a monoamine neurotransmitter. And what that means is it's a chemical messenger that sends information from your nerve cells to other parts of the body. But in a simplified way, I like to view it like a musical conductor. It turns on, it turns off, it turns up, and it turns down different parts of your brain, and it all affects whether you do take action and whether you don't. The things you do and how intensely you do them as well. From an evolutionary standpoint, our brain wants us to survive, and it wants us to survive so that we can breed and carry on the human race. That's just how evolution works. And the way that it encourages us to do behaviors that allows us to survive and breed and reproduce is by rewarding us when we do activities that it thinks is going to increase the likelihood of survival. If we eat fatty or salty foods, we get dopamine, we get pleasure chemicals, we get the reward because the brain thinks that calories are needed for survival. We're rewarded when we have sex because sex is needed for reproduction and reproduction is needed to carry on the species. And we're also rewarded when we win, a competition. And this was there for the evolutionary standpoint because we need to beat other species and our tribe must survive. But in reality, dopamine takes it one step further than this. And this is where most people get it completely wrong when it comes to dopamine, because actually, more dopamine is released in anticipation of a reward than when you actually get the reward itself. Dopamine is the molecule of more, the thing that's always getting you to strive forwards, to achieve more, to become more, to progress as a humanity, and this is good. This is why we progress as a humanity. Dopamine is constantly getting us to want more and to push ourselves forwards, stopping us from being grateful, but at least we're always making progress, and like I said, this can be good because we're advancing humanity as a whole, but it can also be bad. And it's bad because people are very aware of this problem. Some of the greatest minds on our planet dedicate their whole life to figuring out how they can give you more dopamine through their product, how they can hack this craving loop to have you coming back again and again and again. And the problem with this is that you're never going to be satisfied, you're never going to be satiated through these products.
Then one time he touches the pedal, it does turn on the stimulation. You can see the lights go on.
Now, the interesting thing about the old stimulation, the rewarding stimulation, was the strength of it. It was somewhat different than rewarding stimulation for food and water in that there was no satiation. Animals would continue for hours and hours and didn't seem to satiate. They didn't feel full. They would just keep doing it for long, long periods of time. They would do it to exhaustion.
We live in the attention economy. Everyone is fighting and bustling to get your attention. That's the valuable commodity at the moment. And there are literally loads of books written about how to get people hooked, how to get people to come back again and again and again. And that is through releasing dopamine through using the product. Why do you think that Facebook has a like button? Why do you think that notifications are red? And why do you think that video games have a rank system? It's all because millions of dollars has been spent split testing and figuring out what is the thing that releases the most dopamine per minute. And they're constantly iterating and improving on that so that the more and more and more dopamine is released when you use those things, so that you have no other option but to get back again and again and again like a dopamine addicted rat. We have slot machines in our pockets, we have tobacco in our food, and we have cocaine in the things that we watch. And the scary thing is, our brain is willing to go through so much pain to get this dopamine. It craves dopamine so much that it is literally willing to put you through immense pain in order to get it.
Now, I will electrify the grid. The animal must cross an area that gives a very painful shock to the feet in order to get to the pedal and stimulate the brain.
And a rat wanting brain stimulation would brave a shock stronger than even a starving rat would brave to get food.
This shows a rat is willing to pay a very high price in order to get to the pedal.
Human addicts will pay just as high a price for their rewards.
Our craving for dopamine is so intense, it's so powerful, that our brain is willing to sabotage so many different areas of our life, and we see this in the most extreme case with drug addicts who literally let their whole life fall apart for dopamine. But we're not too far away from that ourselves. We're willing to lose trust in ourselves, to go against the word that we told ourselves, to break our own promises, just to play an hour extra of video games. We're willing to let relationships slide because of porn. And we're willing to let our dream job go because of social media. Just imagine if you'd spent all of those hours in the past few years, the hours that you've spent getting dopamine and getting the quick release of dopamine, if you'd spent that towards something meaningful, towards doing something incredible, where would you be? We've all turned into dopamine addicted rats, and we're pressing the lever again and again and again and again. And whenever there's the option of getting dopamine now or getting dopamine later, the brain is always going to urge you to go for getting dopamine now. But if you've seen the video about this graph changed my life, you're going to understand that there's an immense correlation between instant gratification activities and living a life of regret, of sadness, and of pain. And then on the other side, delayed gratification and living a life of immense success and happiness. And I've noticed this in my own life too. When I used to find myself binging YouTube and binging instant gratification and binging dopamine-inducing activities, sitting down and working for 3-4 hours, it seemed impossible. But now, when those things have been cut out, or at least greatly reduced, sitting down and focusing is easy, and the best thing is, it's enjoyable. And if we can remove that instant gratification, when we remove the options for our brain to push that lever again and again and again, then our brain becomes excited by delayed gratification. Our brain needs stimulation, and if the option for instant gratification isn't there, that's when we get you to start working, to start building momentum, to start building discipline, to start building good habits, and becoming the kind of person that you're truly proud of. And that's where the dopamine detox comes in. A dopamine detox is not fasting from dopamine. It's fasting from short-term activities that are repeated and reinforced through dopamine. And when we do that, first of all, we remove the option for instant gratification, so we find ourselves doing delayed gratification. And second of all, that delayed gratification becomes far more appealing, far more tantalizing, and far more enjoyable. But what does this process actually look like? What is a dopamine detox? Well, after doing it myself and running a few people in the procrastination program through this, there are 2 different sections of it. The first section is the hard reset. So the hard reset is a 24-hour period where we reduce all activities that are negatively induced through dopamine from your life. The most common ones are binge eating, porn, social media, going on your phone, TV, gaming, drugs, and gambling. And during this hard reset, you're going to become very, very comfortable being alone with your thoughts. I used to go through life mindlessly consuming information every single second of the day. Even when I was peeing, I'd be on my phone. If I was walking between rooms, I'd be listening to music. If I was in the car, I'd be listening to a podcast. I was never left alone with my thoughts. But during this hard reset, that's what's going to happen. You're going to be left alone, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but then it's going to get comfortable. And you're going to enjoy being alone with your thoughts. You're going to start to see the true perspective on life. And in the very next video in the Mental Momentum course, we're going to walk you through creating your own dopamine detox, because it needs to look different for absolutely everyone. You'll be assigned an accountability partner, and then on Sunday, you're going to be doing your first dopamine detox. Once it's done, you'll be more focused, because dopamine affects the length of focus that you can have. You're going to be more motivated, and you also will have provided your brain with straight evidence that you can go without all of these dopamine-inducing activities. And that's very important. Now, I'll be completely honest. Your brain's not going to be neurochemically changed through doing this dopamine reset. There is no strict science that says that the wiring of your brain is going to be transformed in this process. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable. In fact, it means the opposite. The The dopamine detox is a mental reset for you to have so that you can go into the future completely afresh of your old habits and install new ones. So the vast majority of your change is going to come from the second phase. After the hard reset, we're going to be going through the rewiring phase, which is an ongoing process of getting yourself away from dopamine and towards long-term inducing activities. So your dopamine detox is going to be on Sunday. We're all going to be doing it together. And if you're watching this video after it's released, that's fine, just do it on Sunday again. If you check out the description, there's going to be a link to the Reddit page, which is going to be where you can find accountability partners, you can document your experience and just talk about dopamine detoxing. And if you want to get the best results, then invite your friends to be your accountability partners. Just send them over to this. And if you want to get the best results, then invite your friends to be your accountability partners. In the very next video, we're going to talk about mapping out your personal dopamine detox so that you can really harness the benefits from it, and then we're going to be all doing a dopamine detox together. So let the YouTube algorithm know that you want to see these things by liking the video, commenting saying I'm still in, subscribing and doing all of that, and that way this whole video course is going to show up on your YouTube homepage so that you can actually change your life.